Welcome to this edition of the Hoel Roofing and Remodeling Podcast. Today our special guest is Rusty Harmeyer. Rusty is owner-operator of Harmeyer Auction and Appraisal. And I just personally had Rusty come in today because, believe it or not, it was probably 21 years ago that you were coaching. I was one of them high school kids coaching livestock with you. And, your daughter, Natalie, well, we graduated high school together. So, sure. Pretty much grew up 4 or 5 miles down the road from you guys. So, neighbors and, just a mentor of mine from a lot closer, then it was more of a closer here lately, more of a far being a business owner. So I'll give you a second to introduce yourself and your family.
Sure. Well, thanks, Bob. It is indeed my pleasure to be asked to be a part of this. And as you referenced, I'm Rusty Harmeyer. I own and operate Harmeyer Auction and Appraisal Company. We started in business in 2000 here in Rush County. I'm also involved with Halderman Real Estate and Farm Management. I got involved with those folks from a real estate standpoint. If you want to think, they were my managing broker at the time. Since then, I've turned into their director of auction operations, their lead auctioneer, and Howard and I formed Halderman Harmeyer Real Estate Services as a separate standalone company outside of Halderman Real Estate and Farm Management. So that's a little bit of what we do. I've got a great team of folks that help us. Most of them are all here local. There's about 16 or 17 of us that provide auction services for our clients. There's 6 of us that do appraisal service for our clients. And then, like I said, I'm also very involved with the Halderman side of it in helping them market and sell their real estate. Anything that's done auction related, I'm involved with directly with that.
So not one question, just kind of one thing. I noticed you guys were probably one of the first ones to really start doing the online auctions.
Yep.
And as a business owner, I know when you're a trendsetter, you're doing it before everybody else is. Nobody likes you, I hate that. I wish I could go blow 2 days every weekend at an auction and stand around and not buy what I want, So kind of just talk what got you started in that of going to the online. Did somebody encourage that? Did you just kind of see that as something that needed done?
Well, it's really funny because I make the comment, we were online before online was cool.
Oh, absolutely.
COVID made everybody go online. Yes. And now everybody's like, there's a big benefit to that. But we started in the online platform, actually, I think it was either 10 or 11 years ago this summer. And it was something that we've always been fairly tech savvy and fairly forward thinking.
Yep.
It was something that I kind of wanted to do, and I had the opportunity to meet an elderly gentleman and his wife from over in the edge of Illinois. And these folks were in their late 70s at that time and was doing everything online. And it was just intriguing that, typically the stereotype is, well, they're older folks, they don't know how to do technology.
Right.
And so I was able to get with them and sit down over supper and have a really deep conversation. And I asked him just that, why did you go online? And he said, well, I had to. I lost all my help. Me and my wife aren't physically able to tote bedroom suits out of the house and into the trailer and to the fairgrounds and all of that. And it's like, okay, I follow that. And we talked about it, and I asked him a lot of questions. Well, it's funny how fate just kind of makes things happen, because I had a couple guys, dear friends of mine, that was helping me with the auction business. And they were both farmers. One was also a full-time fireman, and they were my muscle during the summer and through the winter, and helping us get everything moved from the house either to the fairgrounds, Mahoney Valley, wherever we was holding the auction. Well, both of those guys, the fireman became assistant fire chief. And so instead of working 24 and off 48, now he's working every day, 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever. And the other guy retired from farming and went to work at a full-time job in town. So I went from having two guys that I could just say, okay, this is what we're doing, and they go do it, to it was just me and Kathy Frost. Kathy has been with me almost as long as I've been in the auction business. And Kathy's first husband was my 7th and 8th grade industrial arts teacher. So I've known Kathy forever. And it was just her and I and these two guys for the most part. Well, then it was just her and I. Mm-hmm. And so we're really kind of struggling on how we're going to find labor to do this, or we've got to do something different. And I had an opportunity to do a sale, and it was just right down the road here on Cherry Street. It was a small house, really didn't have a lot of merchandise to sell. And my charge was just to get the stuff out of the house so we could sell the house. Mm-hmm. So I told Kathy, I said, this is the perfect opportunity to try this online thing. Kathy was not for it at the time. Right. She had tried and tried to convince me that this wasn't going to work. I said, well, it might not, but we're going to try.
Right.
And lo and behold, this property, the items in this property, the personal property, brought more than 2 times what we both thought it would generate.
Right.
And there again, we were under the impression that most of our buyers would come within 15, 20-mile radius.
Yeah.
Well, we were selling stuff to the other side of Indianapolis.
Right.
And it was literally just stuff.
Yeah.
And so after we got all done and everybody come and got their stuff and they carried it out of the house and all that, it's like, wow, this is way easier than loading it all up into the trailer, taking it to the fairgrounds, unloading it, setting it all up, doing all the work we got to do. So it enabled her and I to continue doing estate auctions where with just her and I, we couldn't have done estate auctions unless we could do them on site.
Right.
So that's how the online auction got born. And there was a learning curve. There's absolutely a learning curve to that. We kept trying to make it fit the live auction, mm-hmm. and we still do to some extent, but there was new things that we had to kind of figure out. And okay, what happens if the guy's 30 miles away and he buys $3 worth of stuff and he won't come and get it? Okay, how do we handle that? Yep. I've heard every excuse under the sun why they can't come to pick up the day they are supposed to. There's one guy, his grandma has died 5 times. And the last time I finally asked him, I said, when are we going to bury this poor lady? Because she's died 5 times. And he got that deer in the headlight looks like, oh, yeah, I guess I have used that excuse a lot. So, but it does make us, and I've helped other auctioneers get in the online mm-hmm. auction platform. And I tell them all, it will make you a better auctioneer.
Right.
Because before, if we're sorting it for a live auction and you're going through the kitchen drawers, you're just throwing stuff in a box, and whoever's interested, they're going to look through that box and see what's there. Mm-hmm. We're doing that online. We've got to look through the box and see what's there. We've got to tell them that there's 3 steak knives and 7, mm-hmm. fillet knives and all of that. So we know in much more detail exactly what we're selling. Well, and you say, well, what does that mean? Well, that means we know also that we've got to market certain things a different way.
Right.
If we stumble across that one oddball piece, then we've got to market that, and we got to do it well. And maybe we got to touch a different market mm-hmm. than we would for just the pots and pans and bedroom suits and those kind of things. So it does make you a better auctioneer. And in reality, an auctioneer is nothing more than a marketer.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, I can talk fast and I can do all that, but the real true success of having a successful auction is you got to make sure that the buyers know that they have an opportunity to buy what they want to buy on a given day or at a certain time. And that's the challenge. Right. People like to buy stuff. They just got to know that it's being for sale and how and when you're going to sell it. So it's really forced us to be a better auctioneer, which in reality has just made us become better marketers. Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I should probably not like you for it because my wife's always on there like, oh, I seen this antique dresser and and then the worst part or the funny part was the time that her and her mom were bidding against each other, and her mom was trying to buy it for her for a Christmas my wife for a Christmas present, and like we showed up and my wife's like, I was bidding on that, Mom. So that was kind of funny, when that happens. But yeah, I mean, like I said, like I look back and I want to take back to us because I remember this conversation like it was yesterday, which is kind of ironic. But I remember, as business owners, people will see that you've been in business now for 20, 24 years. We've been in business 7, 8 years, whatever it is. Like, oh my gosh, like overnight success. But I remember when I was coaching livestock or you were coaching us, I was judging livestock. I remember you were driving, I want to say to Detroit for an auto auction.
Yep.
And I remember just like questioning you a little bit, like which, I mean, when you're 16, I guess now I realize that Detroit's a lot closer than, as a 16-year-old, you're like, Detroit, that's a long way away. But I just remember you saying, hey, man, it's paying my bills right now, and what some people forget or don't understand. And when you start in business, sometimes that you have to take that auction job or that, weekly or every other weekly income just to, pay the bills so you can have the opportunity to sell Aunt Susie's, home items and whatnot.
It was really funny when I had this idea come to my head. I had a full-time job, expense account, company vehicle, my wife and we was raising our daughter Natalie out on Orange Pike, and I come home and I tell my wife, I said, I think I want to quit my job and pursue being an auctioneer. And she's like, you're joking, right? I mean, you do know we got 2 car payments, a mortgage payment, insurance, light bill, all of that. And Natalie would have been, 12, 13 years old. And, how are we going to pay the bills? And it's like, I really don't know, but we'll figure it out. And there for a while, some people know this, most people probably don't. I cleaned a church. I mowed grass. I was driving to Cincinnati one day a week to help at a car auction. Mm-hmm. That was a regular paycheck. The church cleaning job, that was a regular paycheck. I was also doing real estate appraisals, and I could count on 1 or 2 real estate appraisal checks coming in every week. And, we're doing the math, and it's like, I really think I can replace the income that I'm about to walk away from. But it was the unknown.
Oh, yeah.
Every other week you're getting this many dollars put in your check account.
Right.
And now you're going to do what? And my dad asked me the same thing. He's like, boy, do you know what you're doing? And it's like, well, maybe.
Not really.
But we're going to try. And the only way I could really get Judy to go along with it was I was 35 at the time. And I said, look, give me 5 years. And if we've not made a go of this, I'm going to be 40 years old. I'm still very employable. Mm-hmm. I can go to work for somebody else and they'll hire me. I've got 20 or 25 years before I'm going to retire. So I can go back into the industry or into the world of work and be hired and get a regular paycheck again. And after it took about a year and a half, it was like, yeah, this was the right decision.
Right.
For the first year, it was nip and tuck. And yeah, we paid all the bills, right. But the unknown, as you know, the unknown can really weigh on you.
Right.
I hope I've got a job now, and yeah, we've got enough income for the next couple months with what we got coming up. But what happens in 6 months if the phone quits ringing?
Yep.
And it is a little unnerving. But it was still the greatest decision I ever made, other than marrying my wife.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And and I love to hear you talk about that you're cleaning the church, or whatever that was, or what else that you were doing, just because that's something else that people don't realize or they don't remember. I always. Me and Emily, we always joke and laugh about some of the stupid entrepreneur ideas that I had that we tried before this actually took off, and we learned a lot, and, it's just, and I always say, like, not to get religious or spiritual, but you have to have the faith in yourself, and your spouse has to have that faith. Cause literally we were sitting on the couch when we decided that we were going to make this roofing business work come high hell or water, like Emily was literally nursing Riley, and there's no way she was 2 weeks old.
Right.
And I remember saying one more time, like, I'm ready to start my own company. And she's like, let's do it. And it was like, that was almost like Emily calling me to the carpet, like,
sure.
All right, you've said it for how many months, how many years?
Right.
Like,
put up or shut up, dude.
You know, and like, so, and, you know, fortunately, like, and, you know, we had a lot of support, and there were some people that were like, well, what are you going to do when the economy, you know, turns or gets worse? And it's like, okay, well, right now I'm selling roofs, so I think I could probably do a better job selling for myself than somebody else. So, you know, that's just something that, you know, you gotta come to. But no, like I said, that right there is always, that's always fun to hear, because, you know, you're not afraid to clean a church. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you walked away from a nice paying salary, expense account, a car, all that, and then you look up and you're like, okay, oh wow, you know, I'm scrubbing toilets now to make sure, you know, to make sure there's food on the table, or, you know, whatever that looks like. So, was there anything like that you tried inside the auctioneer business that, like, you know, didn't really work, that maybe got, you know, it's all, to me, I try to not look at it as a failure. It's, you either win or you learn, is how I try to look at things.
Sure.
Like, you know, no matter if we really failed at it, like, I just want to learn something from it and, you know, move forward.
You know, and you're right. Not every decision you make works out the way you thought it was going to work out. For somebody that did take that big leap of faith, I am fairly conservative. And I learned early on that if you surround yourself by successful people, the likelihood of you being successful is much greater. And the fact that I was able to work at car auctions early on in my auction career, and I got the opportunity, you know, the first car auction job that I had, there was 16 of us working there. All of those guys, with the exception of myself and one other, had been in the auction business for quite a while. Okay. So I was surrounded by people that I got to know really well. And when I had a harebrained idea, I'd float it past those folks first. As much as I'd love to say I'm a frontiersman and I come up with all these great ideas, most everything has been thought of before me, for the most part. And, you know, nobody ever said, oh no, don't try that.
Right.
A lot of guys said, yeah, I've done that, and this is what I learned from it, or this what worked really well, this is what didn't work well. So, you know, I was involved. I'm pretty actively involved in the Auctioneers Association, and we have a saying in a group of auctioneers that went through a program, and it's called R&D. And everybody thinks about research and development. Right. No, it's rip off and duplicate. Yeah. So when somebody else is doing something right, rip it off and just go do it, duplicate it. And so I was able to do that a lot. So to answer your question, did I have any really ideas that didn't work well? No, but I really vetted them before I kind of said, okay, this is what we're going to try. I've really not had any big learning experiences in my career, but I say that because I have had the opportunity to work with some of the best auctioneers in the country. And yeah, we all do, you know, contract work. You show up at the car auction, you walk in, you hear that, you talk to the boss, he hands you a paycheck, you go work for an hour, 2 or 3, and you go home. Pretty cut and dried. Well, but at the same time, all these guys are just like me, and they've got what we call personal business, private, you know, personal property type business. And so they're all doing things too.
So is it, if you're going to call it R&D, I like that. Was a lot of auctioneers get their start in the car business then? No, okay. Absolutely not. Actually, I was extremely fortunate. There again, a good friend of mine, Todd Woodruff, got me in the car business. I jokingly say that the good Lord himself could walk into a car auction and say, hey, I'm the good Lord himself, and I'm an auctioneer, and I want to work at a car auction. And the manager's going to be very polite, and he's going to look at his resume and talk to him and ask questions and all of that. And the good Lord won't get out of the door, and he's going to throw that resume in the trash.
Because without somebody saying, hey, I know that guy and he's a pretty good guy, we could probably use him, you will not get in. You will not get in the car auction business. It is one of the hardest, closest guarded fraternities there is out there. And there again, because of Todd, I was able to get in the first one. And he told me right up front, once you get one, then you can get as many as you want, but you got to get the first one.
Okay.
Because very few car auction companies are going to give somebody the opportunity to work that doesn't have experience.
Okay.
And it's almost just dumb luck for that first time. And it really was. The car auction company that I went to work with was called Mannheim. It was down in Cincinnati. Todd had been down there for 3 or 4 years. And they had a situation where they needed 8 additional auctioneers next week.
Oh, wow.
And, it's just like you saying, hey, I got to have 5 experienced roofing crews by the end of next week. Well, that's easy to say, hard to do.
Right.
And finding 8 experienced car auctioneers that's not already working, that's pretty tough to do. And Todd said, hey, I got a guy. I think he can come and help us. And I got my foot in the door, and I was able to stay for a lot of years. And then from there, I went to work in Columbus, at Columbus Fair, Columbus, Ohio. I worked there 1 day a week. Then that became 2 days a week. I was going to Detroit. At one point in time, I was working 5 car auctions a week. Okay. That's about all I could do because most of them, the closest one was Cincinnati, and that was the better part of an hour and 45 minutes away.
Right.
I'm there for 3 or 4 hours, but you pretty much shoot the better part of a day. By the time you leave, you get there, you do your job, and you get back home. It doesn't leave a whole lot of daylight time left. So it was extremely difficult. And without Kathy, I couldn't have done that.
Right.
Because between Kathy and Wayne and Dave, they were able to do a lot of the get the work done work time. Then I could just, and it was funny because I talked to Kathy yesterday, and we jokingly said, she goes, remember when you first hired me, you told me that I was going to do all the work and you was just going to show up on Saturday morning and talk fast. And I said, yep. And she goes, well, that's kind of the way it is, isn't it? And I said, yeah, only there's you and 15 others doing all the work.
Well, and I mean, that's another thing, like, people don't realize, behind the scene, like, how much, like I understand. I mean, I can imagine the help that you have to have the success you've had. Same thing. Like, we look at each other and we understand, wow, they've got a good team back at home or back at the office, because then, you can get away to do stuff like this and that kind of stuff. So how long has it been since you've been in the car auction?
I'm still in the car auction business.
Okay.
I choose to remain in the car auction business. I sold cars this morning. I work for Odessa car auction company, which is their world headquarters is in Indianapolis, but I work in Cincinnati, Dayton, which is about halfway between Dayton and Cincinnati, right there at Franklin. Okay. And they have 2 car auctions a week, and I am fortunate enough to get to work at both of those. Okay. Now on Tuesdays, there's, 14 of us that probably work there on Tuesday. Then every Friday, there's 4 of us that work there. And then once a month, they have what they call the specialty sale, which is boats and RVs and motorcycles and things of that nature. Then there's another group of 6 guys that work there on that sale, but that's a monthly sale. But, people ask, I've had other car auctioneers, they know what all I do, and they see on the website how much I got going on. And they say, why do you still do this? And I tell them, I said, this is my golf game. When I get here and I climb up on the block, it's something, first off, calling bids and selling cars is something I absolutely enjoy doing. And when I get there and I crawl up on the block, I have to shut my phone off. I can't answer it. I can't respond to a text. I can't reply to an email. For an hour or 2, I'm just there doing something I really, really enjoy doing. And they pay me for it, believe it or not. And I hope Jay Hoel and Mike Long isn't going to watch this, because they're going to say, that guy will come and do it for free. But no, it is something that I absolutely thoroughly enjoy. I sold 100 cars this morning. We had 100 cars in my lane, and I think I sold every one of them, which is just because of the consignor. I would love to tell you it's my world-renowned auction prowess, but it's not. It's just the fact that the consigners that I get to sell, they bring their cars there to sell them and turn them into cash.
Right.
So we most sell them all, but I think I did sell every one of them today.
Well, and I was just talking about that with, I believe, Jonathan Holzback and my wife a couple of days ago. Like, you know, when you come down to the Rush County 4-H auction, like, you're so good at, like, you know, hey, now, are you really going to lose out on a chance of buying a 2023 Grand Champion barrel? Because there's not another one, you know, and like, I mean, and you can hear your passion and your love for the auction, for the kids, for the 4-H, you know, kind of all that together. And that's just, I mean, that what people don't understand is, like, yes, we were called to be in business and stuff like that, but we genuinely have to really enjoy what we're doing.
Sure you do.
Because there's crap that happens that
every day.
If you didn't enjoy doing it, you'd throw the towel in. But,
Right.
So it is, and it's funny because, like, I feel like I'm one of them that I don't have an off switch, and, like, I don't have hobby of golfing or hunting. Like, I would rather just go do more work. Like, me and Emily's in the process of building a house right now, and I've been GCing it, and, like, I think I got in at 2:00 this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was trying to do stuff at the house, and then I needed to help get some stuff ready here for the business. And this morning, Emily left before I got up and going, and she texted me. She's like, I have no idea how the hell you stay up so late. And I was like, I just had to get stuff done. But it comes around of, like, actually enjoying, you know, what you're doing. For me, something I like to do is I like running excavating equipment, and we bought a mini to dig water lines and electrical lines and all that. And it's like, I got to actually go do some dirt work with the skid loader later this evening or tomorrow. Yep. Like, and I'm looking forward to it because it's just, like you said, like, I can answer my phone, but still, like, you get in that zone and like you genuinely enjoy that. So.
Yeah. Well, you brought up 4-H, and that is something that's near and dear to my heart. I was a 10-year 4-H member. My wife was a 10-year 4-H member. Right after I got out of 4-H, we became 4-H leaders. We were the leaders of two different clubs for, I don't know, probably 6-7 years until Natalie got old enough to where she could start showing, and we were going to get involved in showing livestock with her. And so 4-H has a special place. So selling 4-H livestock auctions is something that I absolutely do. I enjoy doing. I sell 5 or 6 of those a year. They're all donated, free, gratis. And people say, why do you drive clear to Huntington County? And it's like, because I like it and I enjoy it. Obviously, it makes no sense to spend a whole day and drive to Huntington and back for a donut, a cup of coffee, but that's what we do. And here in Rush County, you know, I've been very fortunate and been involved with that 4-H auction for a long, long time. Connorsville, Fayette County, that was another one that I've been involved with. You know, I grew up in 4-H in Wayne County. I've been helping with the Wayne County 4-H livestock auction for probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 years anyway. And I get involved in Preble County too. Preble County is a big county, and they have a huge livestock auction. They run 2 rings in 2 different buildings. Cattle, sheep, goats, chickens, turkeys, they're sold in one ring. The swine, for the most part, it's just strictly hogs, are sold in another ring in another building. And they start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and their goal is to be done by 4 that afternoon, running 2 rings. And so they bring a lot of auctioneers in and out. Guys can come in and they work in the morning. I sell cars that day of their auction, so I go sell cars, and then I come and help them in the afternoon. And it really works out good because there's guys that can't stay all day. And just like myself, I can't stay all day either. So, but it is something that I really, really enjoy. And I do fundraising auctions as well. I got the Bella, the Hospital Foundation event is tonight that I'm going to do. And I don't want to sound like I'm tooting my own horn, but I do feel like I'm pretty successful at these fundraising auctions because I can get people to relax and enjoy themselves. And people come up to me and say, oh, I just had the best time. And it's like, yeah, because if you're laughing you don't fill me in your billfold getting all your money out. If you're not having a good time, I reach my hand in your billfold, you know it right away, and it's like, get out of there.
Right.
And so if I can have people enjoy themselves and enjoy the event, it's way easier to get money out of their pocket. And the 4-H fair is the same way. I like to, poke fun at the folks that I know well enough and I can poke fun with, and it just gives everybody a more relaxed, enjoyable event.
Well, and it's funny you say that because it's been several years ago now. You were doing a fundraiser for something. I don't remember what it was. And I remember one or two things that you must have known the guy buying it, because like you got it up 4 times higher than it ever should have been. And then you're like, oh, thanks so much. You know what? He just agreed that he's actually going to pay the $1,500 and we're going to sell it again. So let's start at $1,000. And I'm like, I'm conservative. Like I'm super like, I don't want to say I'm super cheap, but, I'm looking for a good deal sometimes. But I've come to realize that when you go to something like that, like spend, I know it's a $300 grill, but it's $500,
right.
$500-600 because it's helping out whatever it's helping out,
Exactly.
So that's a good friend of mine, Mary Jane Apple. We were having that conversation. We went to a fundraiser one time for a mission trip of somebody, and she said that her husband Brad got on her because she's like, "Oh, I'm going to get that for a deal," and he's like, "Gosh darn it, Mary Jane,
Yep.
They're doing this for a fundraiser," and I've kind of I've always remembered that and like I said, like you do a good job at the 4-H of just of stopping it, and sometimes like. I was at an auction that you weren't running. I won't say which auction it was, but like they were selling like land or something, and man, it was so dry, and like I was ready to take a nap, and I was interested in trying to buy something,
Yeah.
So it's like you got to have that entertainment part, and it's no different than no matter what you're selling. You're selling that pig or whatever. Like if my sales guys walks in to sell somebody a roof, like. If they're laughing and relaxed, it's just it's a lot better. Customer experience is something that that we always talk about. So what I kind of go back to like after you got started, like you said it was a year and a half into it. You kind of felt like you were making it. Like what did you feel like when you hit that?
The goal, when I finally said, you know what, I think this is going to work, I was able to have enough weekly income coming in that I could quit cleaning the church. It wasn't hard work. It was something that I had to do, and it wasn't that I had to be there on a specific day at a specific time, but I had to get it done. But it was the fact that I've got to get it done, and it's got to be done by Saturday night at 9:00 or whatever time. And when I was able to say, you know what, guys, I appreciate the opportunity, but you need to find somebody else to do this, and that was like, I think I finally made it. I think I finally made it. And I guess that was when I said, you know what, this is going to work. But I've just been blessed by so many different people, and been able to get opportunities because of my sphere of influence. The folks that, for whatever reason, think that I'm an okay guy and try to help me get along. And there again, no different than your business, Bob. That your success is only as good as the guys helping you.
No, absolutely.
And I've just been more than blessed with the quality and the number of folks that are willing to help me. And it's one thing, it's one thing to hire a guy and he's going to show up at 7:00 in the morning and he's going to leave at 3 and you're going to hand him X number of dollars. Yeah, those guys are important. But it's the guy that, man, it's going to rain tomorrow and we've got 2 more hours and we'll have this roof done. We're going to stay and get it done. I heard somebody tell it's an ownership responsibility. Mm-hmm. If you can get an employee that will pick up our responsibility or the way we think about things, you've got an employee, but you got more than an employee. You got a partner.
Right.
You got a partner.
I was just having this conversation. I said, self-employment mentality. Like, if our team, and I don't even say employee because I want team members
Yep.
because I genuinely want, like, them to say, hey, I went ahead, and even one of my subcontractors was nice enough building the new house. I kind of guessed when I was buying flooring, and I was 2 freaking boxes short, and I was texting one of my subs, and he's like, hey, man, he goes, my brother lives right around the corner. I've got to swing by and get some stuff from him in the morning. I'll just swing by and get it. And he was working on a job out here for us, but he drove 2 boxes of freaking flooring from Indy to Falmouth, and he even took them to my house. I told him, I was like, I'll come by the job site and grab them. And I just texted him, I was like, hey, man, is that flooring at the job site? He goes, oh, no, I just went ahead and it's in your garage. It's right here. And I'm like, and that's a subcontractor. In our world, we have a lot of subcontractors, but that's another thing. Like, me and Emily's been extremely intentional of building them relationships. I mean, a lot of our subs, like, we buy their kids Christmas presents and have a Christmas celebration, just because, like, in our construction world, just buying them lunch or bringing them water on a cold day or Gatorade, like, they're not even used to that from, our main roofing Hispanic crew always says that they've never worked for 2 white people. For me and Emily, that they've never worked for 2 harder working white people. Because they just seen us in the beginning, like, we were flipping houses, like, we were working all day running the business, and from 7, 8 o'clock at night to midnight, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, like, we're freaking painting and doing this and that in the flip house just to keep that income, rolling. And then you look up and then you hire a couple people. And then you realize how crappy of a boss that you are. It's like, shit, I just thought I figured out this business thing. Now I'm in the business of hiring people, or, poor Ellie that works for me, she applied a couple times before we ever hired her, and she said that she was giving up. She wasn't applying again. And then I reached out to her, and so, yeah, I mean, that's the team is what makes us shine, and, what makes us look good. And it doesn't surprise me that you've had somebody with you for 20 plus years, just because, your consistency. And that's another thing, like, you've been consistent at what you've done too. As an entrepreneur, we're bad about shiny object syndromes of, like, maybe I should also be, doing this. So what is, just so, like, if, we can help generate some business for you, so is your main part of your business the selling personal property?
Well, if you look at, so we'll typically do, Harmeyer Auction and Appraisal Company will typically do 120, 130. I think last year we did 138 auctions.
Okay.
Probably 75% of those, as far as just number of auctions, is personal property.
Okay.
Now, from a dollar and cent standpoint, we probably sell as many dollars of farm equipment as we do personal property, just because of the dollar value.
Right.
When I was a sophomore in high school, working for my uncle on the dairy farm, driving a 4400 Massey Ferguson combine, if you told me then that, hey, in your lifetime you're going to see a combine cost $1 million, I'd have told you was crazier than that. But we're here. So dollar wise, it's probably about the same. We mainly sell personal property, estate type stuff, which that gets jewelry, that gets gold and silver, that gets antiques, that gets firearms. I mean, that's a big umbrella. We sell more of those auctions a year than anything. Dollar wise, it's about 50-50, farm equipment versus personal property. And then the real estate is something completely separate. At least in my mind, it's completely separate. And we mainly sell farms, Halderman Real Estate, Farm Management. We are pretty much ag property oriented people. And there again, as you just bought some land, what farmland has been bringing,
right.
And there again, when I got my realtor's license, if somebody said, well, you're going to sell $20 million worth of real estate one year, I'd say, you're nuts. Right. Well, I surpassed that last year in 23, So, but there again, nobody would have ever thought we would be selling farms for $22,000 an acre either, So the dollar value of the asset we're selling has went up. So it also makes the total dollar gross sale go up as well. But we sell a lot of estate type stuff. And if you look on the website, there's usually 2 or 3 auctions. The bidding is open all the time, and the vast majority of that is estate type stuff.
Right.
So
yeah, because shout out, you guys actually helped out my in-laws. My wife's grandma passed away, and you guys did the appraisal on that. That's probably been a year and a half ago now.
Right.
So I know that. I know you do. You'd probably do more appraisals than you walked in this building. You're like, yeah, I appraised this, and this was a transmission shop.
Yep.
So you probably do more appraisals than somebody like me would even realize. So.
We do a lot of appraisals, and I don't want to say we don't try to do appraisals, because we do. And actually, I was a real estate appraiser before I was anything. That was the first license that I obtained. And we'll probably do, oh gosh, I'd have to sit down and really add it up, because I've got four guys doing appraisal work. But we probably do 100 appraisals a year. The vast majority of those are just like your wife's grandma's. Somebody's passed. Mm-hmm. We need to get a piece of real estate appraised. We need a personal property inventory and appraisal. That's usually the first contact, the first touch that we have with a family, is through an appraisal. Then sometimes it immediately follows up with, okay, now we need you to sell it, whether it's the personal property or the real estate or whatever. Sometimes it's 5 years down the road. We just got a call. We just got a call a couple days ago. Hey, you guys appraised my grandfather's farm 5 years ago. Now we think we're ready to sell it. So you never know what's going to lead to where.
Right.
And just like you started out just putting shingles on. Right. Well, now you do way more than just put shingles on.
Right.
Well, why is that? Well, because the opportunity presented itself.
Yep, absolutely.
Exactly. Somebody needed your services, and it's like, hey, I think I can do that.
Yep.
And so you start.
Yep, absolutely.
So, you and I, our businesses are completely different, but yet they're very, very similar.
Right.
If you, every place that you say roofing, you cross that out and put auctions or an appraisal, the story would read about the same.
Right.
It really would.
Yeah, you got to take care of people, and like I said, the consistency of that's crazy to think that you've been doing it 24, 25 years, because then it's like, I just seen a cousin of mine. She's technically a second cousin of mine. Her youngest turned 25 today, and I was like, damn, I'm not 25 anymore, Rusty. So
yeah. One thing that I do, and there again, it's one of the things I really, really enjoy. I announce at the Indiana State Fair. And I started out announcing in the sheep barn, the Blue Ribbon Pavilion. And the last few years, I've been the announcer for the Grand Drive and the Supreme Drive. And I didn't realize how long I'd been doing it till and it happened just last year. I was sitting there in the Coliseum, was getting ready for the Grand Drive, and I was kind of going over the script, if you will, and run of the show is what they like to call it. But anyway, I had this young lady sit down, and she said, I've been listening to you for a lot of years. And there again, I'm thinking, okay, he's probably a sophomore, maybe a junior in high school. And I said, oh, yeah? And she goes, yeah, you was the announcer in the sheep barn the very first year I was in 4-H. I said, what are you, a sophomore, junior? She goes, no, I'm a junior in college. And it's like, oh, crap, I am old. I am old. So, yeah, I know exactly what you mean about, I can't be that old. Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Now, speaking of that, this is kind of off subject, and that's kind of squirrel. Were you part of an engagement in the sheep barn for somebody from Rush County? Maybe I'm totally
no. I at the Indiana State Fair, if you receive a champion,
yep,
you get invited to the Celebration of Champions.
Okay.
And I MC that event. That's usually a month or so after the State Fair when they have that awards. And there was a Rush County.
Was it the Coon girl? Emily's younger sister?
Oh, good Lord, you did have to bring that up. Yes, I was involved in that.
Okay, I thought so.
The reason the reason she's married is I read the engagement. So, Yeah, right before the.
So if they have problems, they get to blame that on you.
Yeah,
too,
exactly. Right? Spencer came to me and he said, "Here, can you read this for me right before we do the Supreme Drive?" At that time, we picked the Supreme U in the Blue Ribbon Pavilion.
Okay.
And it's like, yeah, lay it down there. I'll read it here in a minute. Yeah, that's fine. Well, I had no idea what it was. And we just, because at the time we picked the Supreme Champion U 15 minutes after we got done with the last breed champion. And so we got done with the breed champion, and it's like, okay, I started calling people, hey, we're going to, do the Supreme Drive, and we need the reserve champions here, and kind of giving them how this is all going to work. And I had just enough time to kind of run to the bathroom, and I grabbed that paper as I'm going to the bathroom. It's like, what does he want me to read? And I start reading. It's like, oh, crap. Oh, crap. Oh, no. And, whoo, that was tough. He did a great job.
Yeah. Speaking of that, you still doing any livestock, or did you hand all that over to Natalie?
Well, Judy and I, the only livestock, and you can't call them livestock because they're pets, but Judy and I only own 3 dogs and a barn cat.
Okay.
All the other livestock up on 38 belongs to Natalie and Jeremy.
Okay.
Now, there's some in my barn. I just got to have something to go to the barn and feed. So their bucks are in our barn, and I've got some ewes. I normally grow out the ewe lambs and turn them into yearling ewes in my barn.
Okay.
The grandkids had horses up until just about a month ago, and we finally moved the last horse on. The kids take riding lessons, and the lady that teaches them, Tracy teaches lots of kids how to ride horses. And for the most part, they're younger kids. So older horses that can't carry fat people like you and me, they're great for the little kids to ride. And so she gets a lot of older horses. And she lost 3 horses over the winter. They're, again, older horses, just like older folks. They don't winter well. Yep. And so she called here about a month ago, and we've got an old horse for our youngest granddaughter, Hayes. And she said, hey, would there be any chance that I could use him, or I would even buy him? And the girls have found softball the last couple of years. And so riding horses isn't near as important as it was. So Par's just been, that was his name, Par. He's just been kind of a pasture pet for the last year or so. And Natalie said, what do you think? I said, absolutely. Let him go down there and let people enjoy it.
Yeah.
So we took him down there. So right now we have no equine at the farm. First time in quite a while, actually. But we just got sheep. All the livestock on my side of the road is sheep.
Okay.
So, yeah, I personally haven't owned any livestock now for a couple of years, and I'm kind of getting the itch. And my wife, I threw an idea at my wife just the other day, and she said, no. And she don't ever hardly look at me and just say no. She might say, well, whatever you think, honey. And, you've seen that look. Yeah, she didn't want me to do that. But she flat looked at me and went, no. So
it's funny because after we put the septic in our new place, I had the fence built. And I wanted the septic in first just to make sure that we got that done. And the amount of money I've spent on fence for 7 freaking brood cows is stupid.
Yeah.
And then my boy, he can start showing next year. So we got to have that conversation of getting into that. And I got so much out of FFA and 4-H. Like, I want him to do it. But my dad was always like, you're showing cattle. And I look how much easier hogs are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And there again, we've showed just about, our family has showed just about every species that you can take to the fair. And the cattle, by no stretch of the imagination, is the most demanding project there is out there. Not only from a time standpoint, but an investment standpoint, from an equipment standpoint. And there's just nothing easy about showing cattle.
Yep.
But, and I always say this, you can ask a lot of livestock people, well, in 2021, who had the Grand Lamb at the Indiana State Fair? And unless they're directly involved in the lamb show, and it's like, I don't know. But most of them people can tell you who had the grand champion steer.
Right.
And it's just, and I think that's just because it carries a lot more significance. And I don't know why, because there again, we've showed hogs, we've showed sheep, we've showed goats. It doesn't matter what you show. If you're going to be successful at it, you're going to have to put the hours in.
Right.
Now, you're right. Showing hogs, showing sheep, you're going to put hours in, but you're not going to probably spend 4 or 5 hours a day working a lamb. You might spend an hour a day,
right,
but you're not going to spend 4 or 5 hours. And that lamb, you can probably get by with not rinsing him and working his shag. That's a new thing in the sheep world. Working his leg wool, but once a day. Where if you're showing cattle, it's twice a day.
Yep.
And you're going to do it in the morning. And when it gets hot, you're going to have him in the barn before the sun comes up.
Yep.
And as you know, that's early.
Yep.
Come the middle of June, sunrise is early.
Yep.
So, and you're not going to turn that calf out until pretty much the sun goes down.
Right.
And there again, everybody knows it's about 10 o'clock before the sun goes down in July. So it is an absolute most rewarding experience that anybody can do. But by far, the cattle is the most demanding.
Well, and just like, I just think back, and I mean, my dad was old school when it came to 4-H. Like, he didn't, I was lucky if he got the damn calves to the fair without complaining about it. Now, he was there to support me when we showed. I don't want to take anything away from that. But I remember one night, Thursday night, Rush County Fair, I'm out there just getting my calf cleaned up, getting them some feed to kind of settle them in. And a guy walked up, and I mean, I've always been a salesman, so I just started shooting a breeze with this guy. I couldn't have been in the 7th or 8th grade. And come to find out, he owned Perfect North Slopes down in Lawrenceburg.
Right.
And he came back the following night and bought my steer at the auction.
Right.
And like, it took me a little bit to put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, oh, you know what? That had to be in that guy that I literally spent a half an hour talking to, about my calf, and just the experience of being out there and meeting people. Like, I remember going to an open show to livestock judge when I was in high school with Jerry Foreman and his boys.
Sure.
And it was the Henry County Hoosier Classic, I think they called it.
Yep.
And the judging was in the morning. I was back in the barn shooting a breeze with them, and they're getting ready to do the announcements of the results. And Jerry's like, you better get up there for us. Like, no. Well, I was like second place individual, so then I had to like run through the barns,
Sure.
So just them relationships, that's what started this relationship right here. So like, I want my kids to understand and appreciate that. Now, my poor wife didn't show any livestock, so she doesn't really have a clue the heck,
She really doesn't know what she's about to walk into.
Not at all. And I mean, she's gonna end up handling most of the burden.
Yep.
So I guess we got to decide, like, I mean, that's just the conversation that, we're going to have, moving forward. But I know the value of kids that are in 4-H, and just like when I'm hiring people now, like they can, they know how to talk to people.
Yep.
They know how to interact, they can, I go back to livestock judging, like the ability to look somebody in the eyes and tell them my reasons, or,
Sure.
like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, like standing up.
Yep.
And what I didn't realize back then was I was talking to the guy that owned the damn cattle when I was placing them.
Right.
Like, and that just, like I said, I hire people almost every day, or, once a month, and just like the lack of them qualities in humans that we have right now, it's like, guys, we got to put these phones down and, do something.
And I mentioned earlier that the girls have found softball.
Right.
And we have never, ever been a sports family. Natalie, she played softball a couple of years when she was a little girl. We showed livestock. That's what we did.
Yep.
And the girls have found softball, and Riley's found basketball and cross country. But, Regan, the oldest, she's not the oldest. Riley's older by a year. But anyway, Regan plays on a travel softball team. And so we go to the tourneys and watch her play. And I'm a student of people, and I'm watching the game, but I'm watching people.
Right.
And I'm always listening. And the conversations that you hear, the comments that you hear at a sporting event, and it can be baseball, it can be softball, it can be football, it can be, whatever. But a youth sporting event, the conversation that you hear, the comments you hear, and then you go to a livestock event and sit in the stands and listen to the conversation and the comments, and night and day different.
Right.
Absolutely night and day different. And, I've said this numerous times that you will not find a better place to have your kids grow up in the barn.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Well, and it's just that the values and what you learn, inside a barn, that people just, my dad raised us 3 older kids as a single dad, and he made mistakes. However, what he taught us, I don't want to gloat about my dad, but all of his kids have their own jobs, and they're contributing to society as whatever, and we've all taken different paths too.
Sure.
But my brother's a firefighter. I own a business, but still, we're contributing, every day. And like you said, it's the values. It's the late nights in the barns. It's so much like business. You've got to be consistent.
Yep.
And you've got to put the time in, and you're going to put time in that other people are never going to.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Never going to see.
Right. I heard I had an opportunity to listen to a guy, and you can relate to this because you've showed livestock, and the people that are very successful, they really, really quickly get branded as, they own the judge, or they know the judge, or they paid him a bribe, or no. It's winning success is the time that preparation meets opportunity. Mm-hmm. And the folks that are successful in the show ring, they're probably the ones that are spending 7 hours in the barn, if we're talking about cattle.
Right.
They're the ones that are spending 7 hours in the barn versus that guy that stood 4th or 5th that only spends an hour in the barn.
Right.
And you've got to be prepared to be successful. And preparation starts at home. It's no different than anything. If you're going to be successful, you got to be prepared.
Right.
And we're talking about showing livestock, and that happens at home in the barn. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about scholastic ability, then that happens at home studying homework.
Right.
Or in the library, or now I'm really dating myself because you have to go to the library to get information, but
we have a thing called the internet.
Yeah, I know. There's this little thing you carry around. I know. I get it. But no, and it doesn't matter if you're going to be successful at whatever you want to do, you got to prepare, and the folks that prepare the best most of the time are the most successful.
Right.
Cross-country runner, marathon runner. It isn't like he just woke up that morning and goes, I think I'll run the Boston Marathon today.
Yeah, because
I'm not going to the Boston Marathon. The only way I'm going to run, somebody bigger than me is chasing me. So, but that, and there again, we're kind of getting off track here a little bit, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you want to do, whatever trips your trigger with, showing livestock, sports, scholastics, being a layman in the church.
Yep.
If you're really, really prepared, then you're going to be successful. So, and that's hard to do in sports, especially with youth sports, because that's something that the kids do kind of on their own and with their team.
Right.
As you and I both know, there is no individual in showing livestock. Right. Yeah, Johnny or Susie's going to take the calf in the ring, but there is a whole village back home that gets the work done. And yeah, Johnny and Susie's going to be a part of that village,
right,
but it isn't just Johnny and Susie. And so,
well, and I mean, one thing with sports, and this can be in livestock too. It's just like there's got to be a love for the kids that they do that, and that's like one thing. Like I want to make sure my kids want to show livestock. Like, I want to encourage them, and if they sign up for it this year, they're going to complete it. That's just, they need to learn that value. But I've watched 4-H families, and where some of them force the kids all the way through, and then some of them, nope, that one's kind of took the sports route in high school, and I'm fine with that. This one's going to continue to show. And like you said, like, there is, whatever that looks like. Is that the veterinarian involved? Is that the nutrition involved in feeding the animal? And and one thing that I always feel like is you see a lot of that in the livestock industry is, if you're selling lambs, like, a lot of times you're stopping in and checking on them lambs,
sure.
And like, you're not making any more money by doing that. It's genuinely your love. Like, you'll even help show up and fit that lamb, or give some pointers, or whatever that looks like. And that's that's the part of that village, like you're saying,
yep.
that nobody else sees. Like, I worked for Rob Jackman. My wife worked for Rob. Like, I watched them kids grow up, and they won a lot, and honestly that pissed some people off, but I've also been over there many a nights, and them kids are out there till dark,
yep.
working with them damn animals. And
yep.
yes, they had quality animals, don't get me wrong. However, like, they put the time and effort, and it's really no different in sports, because we've all known people that were super athletic that were just freaking lazy, and then the ones that weren't as athletic, but they went out there and just, put the time in, and then when you see them have success, like, it's fun. And I get it's easy to root for the guy that wins, but as a country, sometimes I feel like we demonize success.
We do.
Like, we hate Tom Brady. Like, love him or hate him, like, damn, that guy is talented.
He's good.
And he puts the time in.
Absolutely. And he, like I said, he didn't just wake up and say, you know what, I think I'll go win a Super Bowl today.
Right.
No, he works at it probably 10 or 12 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week.
Yep.
And there is no off season.
Absolutely. There is. Yes.
And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about sports,
yep.
livestock, whatever. It just goes back to how the kids are raised.
Yep.
And I said early on, you surround yourself with successful people, you be successful. If you surround yourself with people that you are comfortable with, then most likely they're good people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, people look at me when our grandkids were little. Now they're still fairly little, but I'm talking about 4 or 5 years old. We would turn them loose, literally turn them loose in the sheep barn, but
right.
they did not walk out of that barn.
Right.
Because we knew enough people in the sheep barn, nothing bad was going to happen.
Right.
Everybody, that's the Klotz kids.
Right.
Yeah, that's Rusty's grandkids.
Right.
And it doesn't matter whether they're looking at my grandkids or I'm looking at somebody else's grandkids. I know them, mm-hmm. and I'm going to look after them. And there's not anybody in that barn that I would be concerned about.
Correct.
Now, obviously, I'm not going to walk them out on the midway and say, okay, see you tonight.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Right.
But because, for the most part, people in the livestock world are just like me.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like you. They're family oriented, or they wouldn't be there.
Right.
They're what I call, quote unquote, good people.
Right. Right.
And I don't want to say that you don't find good people at the sporting events, because you do. There's a lot of good people at sporting events, but it's just not in our wheelhouse.
Right.
And so when we're at sporting events, the two youngest grandkids, we keep them within eyesight.
Right.
We don't make them sit right beside us, but they're going to stay within eyesight.
Right.
So, and there's a lot of days that, you may have seen Hayes 4 hours ago, but I got a text she was with the Shackle girls,
right.
or whatever, so.
Well, and that's another thing is, like, you watch in the livestock, you watch, when somebody was their first year in 4-H, and then you see them 7, 8, 9 years in, and then they're back mentoring.
Sure.
And that's another thing is, like, people just don't see that. And that's, one thing that I say that our country is hurting is the lack of apprenticeship in, like, business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like apprenticeship inside 4-H. Like, if my son, starts showing next year, then there's probably going to be somebody, 7, 8, 9, 10-year 4-H member, like reach back and kind of, help him, and, maybe it's haul the steer the way in or whatever that is. And then, and then in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, 10 years, he can repay that. And just the value, John Herbert was a kid that mentored, he's a man now, my little brother, Matt. And like my dad still talks about when John mentored my brother, and heck, my brother's a grown man now. So,
Sure.
It's like people like that, you just kind of, it matters. And there's just such a long lasting, effect, with that. So.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
As we wrap up, like any other words of advice, I really appreciate our conversation, Rusty.
No, I mean, we could sit here and talk for the rest of the day, and I've got an appointment that I'm already 10 minutes late to, so that's okay. But no, I don't. I tell people this all the time, and I know it's cliche, and everybody's heard it. The success to business is just treating people the way they need to be treated. Mm-hmm. And I tell people, I'm not smart. I just know how I want to be treated, and that's how I treat other people. And just like we talked before we started the interview, there's times when it's like, you know what, that is not. I'm gonna do something for a client that is not necessary.
Right.
It is not going to benefit me any way at all down the future, but it's just the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And I know you've heard it. I've heard it multiple times. Doing the right thing when somebody's not watching is the right thing to do.
Right. Well, and doing the right thing isn't always easy.
Oh, absolutely not. Oh, doing the right thing, sometimes one of the hardest things you do.
Yep.
And then sometimes we don't need to do the right thing because it's wrong, but it's the thing we do anyway.
Right.
And you just grin and bear it and move on and hope that somebody is watching you.
Right.
When you don't think they're watching.
Well, and people are, literally yesterday, we went to a memorial service for a friend of mine that we lost to cancer, Nick Fiano, at 43. And one of his daughters is in my daughter's grade. And he was a mentor. He encouraged me when I went to start the business. He hired me multiple times, never once price shot me, never once held up my money. Like just one of them guys that you do business with that was a gleaming example of Jesus Christ and the love he has for us and all that. And it was a celebration of life. And it was hard. Like, if I'm being honest, it's like, okay, God, this one doesn't make sense.
Right.
5 beautiful children, beautiful wife, would talk to anybody about Jesus and just love them. And they had a worship service, and we sang 4 or 5 worship songs. Preacher talked, his mom came up, sister-in-law came up, and we left, and this worship song came on the radio, and I didn't even realize it was one of them that we had just heard.
Sure.
And my 8-year-old was like, Dad, we just sang that at church.
Right.
I was like, holy cow, because I screw up every day as a dad, as a husband, as a business owner, everything. But I was like, he is watching, he is paying attention. And, people are paying attention, like as a business owner or just in life when you do the right thing. Like, right. I don't care if it's your team member, right. It could be, an attorney or an accountant, whatever that looks like, so yep. Absolutely. But we do appreciate your time, Rusty. And I just want to give a shout out if Rusty can help you. He's not here to sell his service, but appraisal, auction stuff. If Rusty can help you, check out his company. Great guy. My wife spends way too much money with him sometimes. I actually just picked something up the other day in Indy by Greenwood. Stupid little thing. And I was like, you made me drive for this.
Yep.
So, but
we appreciate it too.
All right, guys. Thank you and have a great day.